Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg, Avagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. Good morning, Yasmin. So change is everywhere.
Right. Well, everything's a message. And I know
Mhm.
that's not what the title of this is, but it's like, I'm getting ready. I'm sitting here. I've got everything set up. I brought my tea in here and I brought my glass of water in here. And I'm doing something and I reach and I'm watching myself hit a full 12-ounce glass of water. And in my reaction, I push it over. So I'm watching slow motion, the water go under my keyboard, under my computer, on my separate little keyboard. And I'm watching that. And for some reason, I guess the combination of keys that I hit in scrambling, my computer starts playing AC/DC Back in Black. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so what does this have to do with what I'm doing today?
Right? That's funny.
But I'm like, okay, so, and I mean, it literally slid under everything. The only thing that might be questionable is an external hard drive, which it already doesn't work well. And I've just never taken the step to eject it and get rid of it off my little setup. But
Well, it might be the time, right?
yeah, so I'm just like, okay, so how did I want that?
Yeah.
Because I sat and watched myself push it over. So it's like, how did I want that? Why did I want that? What does that have to do with what I'm doing today?
Back in Black.
Back in Black. Yeah. So I guess I'm, embracing the shadow today, maybe.
Embracing the shadow or going into the black financially, who knows?
Yeah. Or the, what is it? The creative void.
Yeah. There's so many
infinite possibilities.
Yes. And that actually is what I did my meditation on before we got on this morning, is allowing, opening myself further to allow all possibilities.
Opening my heart to all possibilities, doing things like I've never done before.
Yep. Because on that, right, it's, we talk about and we are going through, we have such a supportive, has this one for a great twist on it. We have such a fabulously supportive energy for change right now.
You know what? It is crackling with potentiality.
Yes. And so when we embrace change, when we embrace saying, okay, I'm going to take my feet off the carpet and allow myself to flow, right? And open myself to those possibilities. There are so many there. It's almost breathtaking, right? It's almost daunting, right? So the challenge that many are having physically, mentally, emotionally, in their environment that's coming up with stuff is letting go, to allow the change to fully manifest in a way that's symphonic for you, like instead of clunky, because the clunkiness comes from our resistance, right? Which is funny because after we talk,
I have these things that I do and I want to change everything but these three.
Yes, because I like these what
three. Yes, I'm going to keep these three because I've judged those as this is what I need to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to keep those. And so the energy has to, or tries to align, taking those into consideration. And
right.
Most of the time, it's not that it doesn't work, just maybe not quite that exact version of what it is you want to keep. Right.
And so then there's then what ties in is expectation, right? Of saying, because we always say, okay, well, all right. And this is the challenge. And I had a number of conversations with this last week. This is the challenge we come across with in energy work. When we work in the core of, energy is before physicality, right? So when we work in energy, we're changing such a ripple effect of things before it even hits the physical, which is really the important part of it, right?
Right.
So when we look at it that way, and it's like, well, our minds think from managing, from creating at the physical, when we're working in energy from the non-physical, which is pre-physical. So then there's going to be a misalignment when the mind says, I want to create this. And in the back of your mind, you're saying, and these three things need to stay.
Right. I want to create this using these three things, and then
Right.
whatever else you think.
Right. But that limits so many things just by saying,
Absolutely.
I need to do these three things. I need to keep these. And this includes big things, big, huge things, right? That we're really attached to. So that can include our marriage. It can include our house. It can include our job. It can include where we live. It can include our familial situation. It can include a whole bunch of things that the ego goes, oh, no, no, no. But these are my basis for,
Right.
everything.
These are non-negotiable.
Right. Except your expanded self says, but to create this and to realize all of this, these have to change. And that doesn't mean it all has to go away. The key is to allow change within those things as well, right? So that they start looking different. And that's okay. And being okay with that.
Right. Well, and another way to think about that is, okay, I require that these relationships stay intact, but I still want to create X, Y, and Z. So another way of saying that is, okay, these have to stay the same, and I don't want them to be better. I want them to be exactly the same way they are. So that's saying that if I potentially opened it up, they could be better.
Right.
That doesn't mean they have to go away or fall away or fall apart. They could get better.
And sometimes what happens is what we see is the tower card in the tarot deck, right? And the tower card in the tarot deck is things crumbling, right? So they can be rebuilt. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, there was something that I had been going through for several years, and I kept on writing in my journal, I have my heart open to all possibilities. I would love for this to be this instead. This is good, but I'm ready for it to be great. Right. And so when you say that, and this had to do with my relationship with my husband and everything else, it's for you to say that, though, when you say it, it's like you're thinking, oh no, it's going to be built on here, and then we're just going to go from here to here, instead of, oh no, because there's some stuff in here that's underneath the surface, a little fetid and, like rotted, and needs to come out and clean out so that you can get to here. Right. So we went through a year of cleaning house where a lot of things crumbled in our relationship, and it was extremely uncomfortable to the ego on many levels. But because we were open to allowing and getting to a place and saying, well, all we can do is be here today. All we can do is bring the best of ourselves today, right? No matter what that looks like. And this moment. And there were very uncomfortable times. There were some very different conversations. It changed the way we related with each other, but it brought us to such a different place than we've ever been. But even though it was a year of, felt like just throwing out a ton of crap that I thought was there, but wasn't, right? Because the mind was like, oh no, this is how I'm defining this.
Right.
To here, which is, oh my God, after I was like, my head spinning going, what have I created? I looked back and said, well, this actually answered all of those things that I had been asking to create for several years, and saying I have my heart open to all possibility. And the expanded consciousness is like, are you sure?
Right. And, that brings us to the second part of this is, you open your heart to receive all those possibilities, then you have to allow it.
That's right. And not shut down when it starts being presented to you. Yes.
Right. You have to allow it. And from that perspective, it's helpful to be able to step into the bigger picture and to step into the objectivity of it. I know I saw something that just totally said that, spoke to me about that. And I saw a little picture of a toddler, or, maybe a little bit older, laying on the ground, and there was a boot stepping on its head. And it was just, it just invoked such sympathy and such anger at who would do that. And then you zoom out and you see the bigger picture, and the kid has his hand in the boot playing with himself doing that. And it's like, it's not always what you first judge it to be.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yes.
And it was like, that was his way of playing, and that was his way. But when you only see that tiny little perspective of it, it was totally contrary to the energy of the whole moment.
Right. Yeah.
And if we can look at our own shit that way,
To be frank.
right, to be, yeah, really bluntly honest about it, everything changes
Yes.
if
And,
we allow it.
and that's okay. And it's okay. The biggest blockage and obstacle that we have is allowing change. That is the biggest
Yes.
block, because we stick our heels in, we cry, we scream, we get angry, we distract ourselves with other things and say, I can't get to this. And so this is why it's not happening. Because underneath it all, the ego says, no, 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 I want these things to stay. And I know they can't stay the way they are to change this. And I'm too comfortable where I am. Because it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't, which is how many
But
times
you
you've heard
said,
that.
so a lot of times we just go, okay, well, I'll settle for this then.
Mhm. This is good
Because
enough. This is
Right,
enough
because
change.
I believe
Right.
that these things need to stay.
Right. But if
So
you
I'll
keep on
settle.
getting, yeah. But if you keep on getting hit upside the head and having situations that show up that are saying, yeah, it might not, this might need to have some changes too. Like, and it's like, how much energy are you putting to help try to maintain those things, right, as they are,
Right.
and getting frustrated and angry and whatever, because it seems like, oh, the world's against you, the universe is against you. It's like, no, it's your expanded self trying to help you to move forward.
Right. Right. And you know, what better opponent than yourself?
Oh, right. The best.
Right. And I've heard the phrase, you know, the best teacher is who you've judged as your enemy. Well, when it's really your enemies yourself, what a great dynamic to set up, because that's
Oh.
when real changes happen.
I had a great example of that. I had a session with a client last week, and we had done this exercise of like, look at what you're judging, look at what you're judging, you know, and it had sort of been avoided through the week in between sessions. But then when I started talking, I said, okay, so did you do that? And the answer was, oh, not quite so much, but I do know what I have been judging, right? And so then they were talking about this, and it had something to do with people that they work with and whatever. And I had gotten a glimpse of what we'd be working on toward this. And it was so perfect, right? And how, oh, well, I get mad at these people because of this. And then, you know, that's so frustrating and yada, yada. And she went on. And then I finally said, okay, so, well, remember last week, we sort of touched a little bit about at the end about this. And all of a sudden you could see the light go on in her head, like, oh. I was like, right. So, and that's all stuff that's self-inflicted on your self-judgment you have, and the need for forgiveness and certain things. And so look at what you're judging other people for. It's exactly the same thing, right? And when we turn that into ourselves, it's like, oh, yeah, I am my own opponent. I am my best opponent, because I get angry and irritated about the stuff I don't want to look at.
Right. And I become so resilient and so skillful at avoiding and dodging, and I become even more skillful at buffering that to where you can't help but evolve quicker.
Oh, yeah.
The more you go toe to toe with yourself or expand, whatever.
Well, and when you acknowledge it and respect it and say, oh, look at how smart I am.
I know, take credit for yourself.
I do. I think I say all the time, like, oh, look at how tricky the ego is. Look at what it did there.
Right. Which that's why I'm looking at this whole water thing. Like, why did I need to do that? What was that for? What's in that for me today? And it's like, my desk was pretty clean, so I don't think it was that.
Well, it's funny because, yeah, so what on your desk is there to show you that's something to do differently, right? So,
Right,
yeah, and it was like funny how Friday after we talked and had our talk, whatever, I had to go take my car in to get inspected. That was really
right,
funny, not funny, but so I take
right.
it in and
That's
they're like,
usually funny, not funny.
yeah, they're like, yeah, we're not even going to run the inspection because your tires aren't even going to pass. And I was like, what? I was totally clueless to this, right? And then I thought, oh, well, I've had the car for like 5 years. I didn't even think about the tires, right?
Right, right.
And they're like, and I looked at them and I was like, oh yeah, they're really they're the
Yeah, so
treasure.
maybe that's why I'm not moving forward as efficiently as I could.
Exactly, right. And so it was funny. I was like, oh, all right, well, gotta go get those 4 tires. And it's like what cars are all about is moving forward. And since I have that agreement with myself to not have to manifest this in my physical body, look at how it
Right,
showed up for me is, yeah, make sure you allow this change so that you can move forward in an efficient manner, an efficient, safe, like aligned manner.
right, right. Tires are really good for that alignment thing.
I know. And I was like,
Yeah,
I
and
was
just imagine
laughing.
if you hadn't made the shift and you were still needing to see that and feel that in your physical body, it could be okay, a broken foot or anything like that, or an
Pulled
injury, a
muscle in my
trip.
leg or a knee injury.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yes. And so I was like, okay, I will suck it up and pay the $600-ish to just get my card. I get my card issues. So I felt like, I gave myself a new lease on moving forward now. So, but that's the way to look at it, is like, okay. And yeah, was it inconvenient? Yeah, it was inconvenient, but not as inconvenient as having a blowout.
Right.
Or as inconvenient as, like you're saying, breaking my leg or hurting my feet or ankles or knees or hips or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll take the tire hit.
Right. Right. And bring it full circle and have gratitude for that whole message, because look at how it's going to catapult me forward.
Right.
Look at
Right.
how I am going to see that as the gift that it is, and take advantage of it.
Yep. Yeah. And so, and the more we become self-aware, the more it is like one time I was talking to my husband not too long ago and I said, it's funny. I realized that part of how I said, I can be a challenge because when my ego is uncomfortable with something, it will be very masterful at saying, oh no, that doesn't work. It'll give like 5, 10 reasons why it doesn't work. And that's not right. And blah, blah, blah. Right. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Although I'm at the place of consciousness that 9 times out of 10, I'll let myself grumble for a couple minutes. But if I see the situation persist, I will do it. I'll just allow it.
Right.
Right. And it's that self-awareness to say, I know that I'll just need to grumble for a couple minutes, let the ego have its little temper tantrum, and then move forward. But it's taken a long time to get there.
Right. But look at how you've taught yourself, which that's incredible. That's incredible how you've sat and you've been in observation of yourself and your behavior, and you've been very objective about it and decided, okay, I don't need to hide from this anymore. I need to see it for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was great because yesterday that's funny. I didn't even think of that as connected to this, but our weekends are always full of examples. Right? So yesterday my daughters took me out to a pre Mother's Day thing. Cause you don't want to go out on Mother's Day because it's crazy. Right. So we went out to tea brunch because there's a tea room not too far from here. And so it was really nice, just the 3 of us. And it was funny that in the middle of the conversation, I don't even know how it came about, but we got into this conversation about things we have realized this year about ourselves that's helping us to move forward about ourselves. What an interesting conversation to have with my 25-year-old, my 23-year-old.
Right.
Because I had started by talking about something along the lines of what I was just saying. And I can't remember how it even came up. And then it was funny because then my 23-year-old said, this is what I've been looking at with myself that I've never seen before. and I'm looking at how to manage it differently. And then my 25-year-old said the same thing. I was like, when did they grow up?
Right.
But you know,
Well,
it's great to see that.
and so much of that has probably been in simple observation of what you do.
Right.
And
Right.
it's that living example,
Being the change. Yes.
being the change. Exactly. Exactly. Which, to tie all this back to, this is so much more than just wanting something.
Yes.
There has to be that capacity of opening your heart to allow it.
Yeah.
And then being open to all the possibilities that are associated with it.
Yes.
Because nothing exists in a vacuum. Everything's connected.
Right.
So in that trust and that allow, that's what brings it about, not just, oh, I really want this.
Well, and you know, that's the next step, right? Because a lot of times people, they start talking about, you know, The Secret, law of attraction, all this stuff, it all ties together, right?
Right.
And you can write intentions, you can post pictures all you want, but if you put no energy to allowing change to align to what you're looking to create, then you're going to fight it all the way.
Exactly. Well, and it's like, okay, how's that working for you?
Mm-hmm.
Show me how that's working for you. And
Yes.
and it's I hate to say this, but most of the time it's the user error, because the universe constantly, or else we'd never have inventions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the energy goes into the ideas and they get nourished and nurtured and fed in the energetic form before it can ever become the physical.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if we don't allow that process and just say, oh, well, I just want this.
Right. But I don't want to change anything to get it.
Right.
Because we
Right.
think that's a consequence, right? So think about that. All of the things we put in movies and stories and whatever is like, to use magic, there are consequences, right? How many times have you seen that in like movies and books?
Well,
and
there's
whatever?
a price to pay for the power.
Right. There's a price to pay for the power. Absolutely. There is absolutely a price to pay for the power, which we all have once we access it. And that is to let go. The price we pay is, I must allow myself to let go of what I've had to allow myself to become what I want to be.
Right. Right.
And good morning, Michael, by the way. I saw you come in a little while ago.
I saw that too. We couldn't get a break to say it.
That's right. Which is so much to talk about.
Right. Right. Right.
But that's the whole thing. And it's true, because the first step is seeing it within ourselves. So these are the steps, right? Number one is, the first step is to see it within yourself, right? When you say, I'm ready, and willing and able to commit this. I don't even like say wanting, because then you have that whole law of attraction, putting yourself in want of it, versus saying, I'm ready, willing, and able to have it. Right.
Right. You're saying that I am in lack of it, and you put your energy towards the lack.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if you say, I'm ready, willing, and able to have this, the key in our power and in the energies that are so crackling with the potential for change right now is to not put any predilection on it, to not put any prerequisite requirement, but to say, I allow it with an open heart to manifest, perfectly in divine potential, divine fulfillment of its potential, right? And let it go.
Right.
And if some weird crap just starts coming up, well, like what the mind wants to define as weird crap, just constantly stop and say, okay, what is it for me to do here? What is it for me to do here? And if we put ourselves on, let's go back to our shameless plugs, right? The whole guidance thing. We have a whole course on guidance, and then a whole course on trust, right? Is when we get to that place of saying, okay, yep, can't see it in front of my face right now, but if this is what's presented in front of me, and I'm holding that vision of being ready, willing, and able to create this in my reality, then I'm going to take a breath here and allow, even if it's really uncomfortable.
Right. Right.
And I feel like I'm doing, so it's funny because, I sort of got into that agreement with myself this in January. I was like, okay, I'm ready. It's time to really let go of some of this other stuff, really step into this, what I'd like to create. And it's been a whirlwind. And I feel like I'm in the middle of that movie, Yes Man. Was it Yes Man? Yeah, Yes Man with
where you have to say yes to everything.
with Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if y'all haven't seen it, it's a great movie to watch. It's fun, lighthearted. It's one of the funnier movies that Jim Carrey's done, I think. But it's got a great theme of how when you use yes, right, in a very comical way in the movie, obviously, how
Right.
everything conspires to come together for you in the end, even if it looks crazy, right? So I sort of feel like that's what it's been like for me for the past like 4 months, is like, yes, 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 yes. And it's like, now I'm getting to the point of going, yes.
Right.
But that's also the reaffirmation to me, keeping my heart open to allow that creation, to allow that manifestation. And I'm like, okay. And the thing is, okay, am I to do this? Yes. Okay.
Right. And another facet of this whole conversation is something else we talked about on Friday, is if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting.
Exactly.
So if we are wanting or feel that we would like to attract something different, our actions need to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want something you've never gotten, then you have to do something you've never done.
Right. Well, and that goes back to that whole insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That's the same idea, right? So if we want to do something, I like the way you say that, though. If we want something to be different, then we've got to do something we haven't, like that we haven't done, which is really what I keep on throwing myself in front of the bus with this year, right? So
if we've been keeping ourselves small, then we have to allow ourselves to be bigger. We have to. Loud dog callers. we have to, and I hate that word, have to. If we truly want this, if we truly want to allow it, we have to allow it, and we have to allow it in whatever way it comes. It's like saying, I want this particular Mercedes with these features and this color, and convertible, and this and this and this and this, and I want that, only that. Well, we'll give you a brown one that's free. Nope, I only want this one. Who's going to do that? But when we get so focused on only allowing the way we see it,
yes,
what if that car was gonna be totaled? What if that car that we so wanted was a lemon and gonna be recalled?
Right.
The universe and our higher selves already know that.
Yes.
So they're presenting us with the quickest, most efficient path to what it is that we say we want.
Yes. Yeah, and our expanded self is just because it can see the whole thing, right? So it's like, okay, so let's just reconfigure. It's like reconfiguring millions and trillions of little details to align with that, right? So Michael says, adding this or something better to give wiggle room for the universe. Yeah.
Yes.
I always say beyond all expectations.
Yes.
Is another
beyond my wildest expectations.
Yes, beyond my wildest expectations. I'm adding that in because that feels really fun.
Well, and it that in and of itself makes me feel expanded already.
Yes.
Which is, I think that's the goal in wanting something, is enrichment, nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
So start out with that expansiveness.
Yeah.
And that's what will be answered back.
Right. And if we say, yeah, beyond my wildest expectations, let's bring it on. Right. But then also be ready and willing and able to do that.
Right. To accept it, to take that step off the cliff. Absolutely.
Right. And so, by the way, along the process of that, right, that is claiming our divine right to fulfill our potential, right, of what we're here to do and be and whatever. When we do that and open those freeways, because that's really what they are, that will show up anything we have left in the cracks and crevices of holding ourselves back, of fears, of things we avoid looking at because it's uncomfortable. It will, that's why it feels like sometimes that tower, because it opens the closets wide, opens the doors wide, and the big tsunami comes in and cleans house, right?
Right.
So it can feel breathless and it can feel very uncomfortable and overwhelming. Yep. And then, the key is, that's why it's so key to be really in tune with yourself, to be really taking that time to give yourself a breath, even in the tsunami. I found myself unusually at the end of last week, becoming like going into overwhelm mode because I have so much going on that I love right now. Right. And so much I'm really excited to do and be a part of and whatever. I like almost shut down. Like I just got so overwhelmed for a couple of hours there. And it was funny because my husband and my daughter are both like, you never get like this. What's the matter? And I was just like, yeah, but I acknowledged it. And then I just gave myself the space to say, you know what?
You honored it.
I'm just going to take a breath. I'm going to step back, take a breath, do nothing, and just be. Right. Remember to just be. And I've been really good about staying on top of my meditation every day and doing my self work every day, which really does help with that. Which is always, the plug that we give for everything, for everybody, to make sure that you're doing that. Give yourself that space, because the more we move along, the bigger it's getting.
Right. Well,
and so
the truth about self-work is you're always doing self-work.
Yes.
The question is, are you conscious of it? Are you mindful of it? And are you allowing it to be what you need versus only to amplify the need for something different?
Right. And so that's how it connects with many will back off, right? The ego goes, we've both seen people just completely shut down and say, you know what, I'm going to take a break and not do any spiritual work for a while because this just doesn't work for me right now. And that's okay. We want to judge that. But the thing is, that's okay, because that's maybe that individual's version of taking a breath because it's a little breathless,
Exactly.
Especially when we are bringing stuff up about ourselves, because the biggest step in all of this is really being observant to ourselves, right? Because when we can call ourselves out on our own crap,
right. That's the most powerful thing.
It is. And to do it without judgment and just be like, hey, I see ya. I see you. Well, that's so smart. And now it's time to change that,
Right. All with love and gratitude.
It is. And so it changes the way we see this massive amount of change. In fact, I did, even in my meditation this morning, I had said, and you know what? I'm even opening the doors wider to allow my capacity to, my perceived capacity, because we have infinite capacity. It's what we allow ourselves, right? So I was like, I'm going to open the doors to allow myself even more conscious capacity to allow these changes and everything to flow in and come together in a way that feels more flowing, so it's, and a lot of times it's because of how we keep our certain pathways open. It's like, okay, well then open it wide. Right.
Michael says, I feel like that's my issue. I go through droughts of no manifestations, and then suddenly I get a floodgate open of all my manifestations coming to me at once.
Right. Because there is no time and space.
Right.
It's what we expect, and then what there really is.
Exactly.
Because we also, when we say, well, to manifest something, it's like we expect it within the time and space continuum in a certain time and day and whatever. And then,
well, and to be packaged as we expect it to be packaged.
In a linear form, in a
Yes.
linear manner. Yes. And that's just not how it works. It's not how it works. And and that's part of keeping your heart open to old possibilities, because Michael, you might have been like your expanded self might have been trying to get those manifestations in, but your ego was going, yeah, no, I'm not comfortable with that. So it then had to
Not
find
yet,
another
not
way in,
yet. Yeah,
how to find another way in until it finally broke a pathway open to push in the floodgates, right? To push through the
yep,
floodgates, because that's what we do. And then we complain that it hasn't manifested.
right,
I know I've done it. I know we've all done it, right?
right, right. I've looked, I've asked,
It makes
just
me
not.
think of that joke, right? The joke about that we always talk about, the person on the roof in the flood, right?
Right. The boat comes, no, God's going to save me. The helicopter
Right.
comes, no, God's going to
Right.
save me. They die, get to heaven and say, why didn't you save me, God? Well, I sent a boat, I sent a
Yeah,
helicopter.
yeah. Exactly. And the thing is, that's how our expanded self works. It's like, here it comes this way, here it comes this way, here it comes this way. And the ego goes, nope, too uncomfortable. Nope,
Right.
too uncomfortable. Or nope, because I want to keep this for this, and this. And then it's like, okay,
Right.
well then I'm gonna come through this back door and it's gonna feel like you got knocked on your butt, but it's giving you what you wanted. It's what you wanted to create consciously. So it's not to fear. And that's the thing, is the ego we've gotten into such a habit of the ego shutting down because of fear of change. And the fear of change is because we attach ourselves to things that we believe value us in many cases, right?
Right.
As they are. So we think that if we lose it, it loses our value, versus that value coming from the inside and knowing, no, well, I'm infinitely valuable, right? We can talk about this, and we've talked about it for years now, right? But
Right.
it's that really important step of that self-observation and saying, okay, so next time you do a conscious creation, or you're consciously working to create something, and it's not happening in the way you would expect, have a talk with yourself, right?
Right.
And say, hey, okay, so what is the holdup? What is the limiting factors here? What is there for me to let go of?
Well, and another facet of that is, so what does this disappointment have to say to me?
Yes.
Why am I holding this more valuable than what I'm trying to bring about?
Yes.
And sit with that.
Mhm.
What do you have to say to me so that I can let go of disappointment?
Right.
So I can be done with that.
Mhm. Yeah, because when you start looking at, like, we've talked about, taking those emotions and treating them like an individual coming to visit, right?
Right. The guest house.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, disappointment. So what are you here to tell me? Right.
Right. Right.
And a lot of times, so yeah, and I found that to be such a powerful exercise, because when you do that, it's funny that if you sit with it for a while and you just pretend it's another person you're talking to, right? And you just
Right.
wait for that answer, then it's like, oh yeah, because I wanted to show myself these things I was still attached to, that I'm holding on to, that I am refusing to let go of, even though I'm looking to create this.
Exactly. And I've found for myself, when I sit with an emotion that I just, I've stepped down, I've denied, I've renamed, I've done all these different things, but I can't seem to get rid of. It's like, once I have that conversation with them, then I literally feel that I'm letting go of that emotion in my energy.
Mhm.
And when I'm constantly holding it doesn't make space for new.
Right. Right.
Or it doesn't make space for something that doesn't resonate with it. And if you choose that vibration over the vibration of what you'd like to bring in, they both can't reside in the same space at the same time,
Right.
at the
Right.
same at their current vibrations. So
Right.
something has to change.
Right.
And if you're
Right.
always choosing that lower vibration, or that vibration of sadness or lack or overwhelm or fear
Yeah.
is usually one of the basic ones,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
then that will prohibit those new manifestations from coming.
Yeah. Yep. So let's all just breathe into that for a minute.
Right. Yeah, that's leaving me pretty breathless, actually.
Just take a breath. Yeah. and it's funny because I think I did sort of that exercise with the overwhelming feeling over the weekend, even if it wasn't fully, like it's almost becoming automatic now, right? Like, okay, so what are you here to show me? What are you here to show me? You
Right.
know? And then that's why automatically in meditation is like, yeah, how about if I just expand my conscious capacity to, like beyond what I think I can do, right?
Right.
To allow that infinite ability, to allow that infinite highway access to everything, because we've decided we can't do that, right? And that we can make it easy. And then it becomes the matrix of all those things just sort of, falling down the highway, and you just be like, okay, yep, that's the whole hologram.
Right. And the body's designed to already do this. It's
Mhm.
us that holds it back.
Yes.
It's the ego that holds it back. So if we can, loosen those reins a little bit and allow and prove to ourselves that the body knows what to do. The
Yeah.
body knows how to balance all this and, shuck and jive and,
Right.
go with the flow.
Yeah. Another way to look at it very practically too is like what we're talking about is like, you can, I don't want to say this in a way it sounds like it's judging, but like, because we do this all, and I say this about myself too, we can whine all we want, right? That's the whole aligning ourselves with allowing that change, allowing the change of our habits, allowing the change of what we're doing, right? It's like this. Somebody says, I'm ready to lose 40 pounds,
Right.
but I'm not willing to give up my diet of, fast food every day and, like not having to work out. I just don't want to do without working out. That's why there's an absolutely huge industry of useless supplements that say you can lose weight just by taking them and not doing anything else. Right?
Right.
Right. So it's like, but it's like, okay, are you aligning your diet? Are you aligning your physical activity? Are you aligning your body to be optimally functioning in the way that would allow it to metabolize at that comfort level of weight that you would like to create? Or are you going to sit here and complain and whine and just say, I can't lose the weight because of this, and I'm a victim to this, and I just have I just can't do that, and I can't do this. And that's a perfect example in physicality of how we say we want change, but we're not willing to align ourselves with the change.
Right. And we've become attached to that story of failure and that story of struggle. And that becomes what's important, is that identification.
Is the struggle. Oh, excuse
Exactly.
me. Yeah, the struggle.
Exactly.
That even got caught in my throat when it was going up.
So when we look at what to clear out to embrace this, we've talked about, opening our heart to all possibilities. We've talked about, doing things differently than we've never done to get results we've never had.
Yes.
We've talked about allowing all those things and trusting that we know that our higher self knows the quickest, most efficient path to what it is we say we want.
Yeah, and that we can allow the fire hose to come on full steam. And we have the capacity to be able to manage it easily and have fun with it. That's what I feel like we should do for our clearing today is, setting ourselves at that vibration where we allow ourselves to open our hearts to all possibility in our intended creations, right?
Right.
And that we let go of the things that we're holding on, that we allow ourselves to let go of the things that we have been holding on to that prevented it from manifesting. And that we can expand our capacity, right, to that infinite ability and not ever, to be beyond getting overwhelmed, because overwhelming feels like you're drinking from the fire hose and you're going to suffocate because you can't get it right. So, if you say, well, actually, no, my capacity is much bigger than the fire hose. My capacity is much bigger than the tsunami, because the tsunami is just
because my capacity actually created the fire hose and the tsunami.
Exactly. Yes.
So absolutely, it's greater than either.
So let's set ourselves at the vibration where we hold that vibration and allow it and have fun with it. Right.
Right.
Embrace the change with fun and hooting and hollering. And a lot of excitement.
Absolutely.
That kind of fun excitement.
And a lot beyond our wildest expectations.
Beyond our wildest expectations. That feels fabulous. All right. So let's sit into that. Take a deep breath. Let's close our eyes as we step out of separation, back in wholeness and oneness, and we hold ourselves at the vibration where that is our truth. That is from where we exist, create, and experience. All right. It was almost like we went
The day
from,
there.
I know. I was like, I don't even know how long we were there. I forgot to look at the clock before we went. I was like, oh, I could just stay there. But it was
Yeah.
almost like going from, to me, from like dial-up modem to fiber optic, and like that. It was like opening everything up, and it's like almost like a big breath. And that was very nice. Very nice. And that was a collective as well as individual. That felt really cool.
Right. Right. That, when you inhale and then realize that you can inhale more, and then you take in more and more and more, and then the big exhale, and then it's that rhythm. I love those pictures of watching satellite pictures of the earth as it changes through its seasons, and it's like it's breathing.
Mhm.
That's what I felt like this was, is a new way to breathe. There's so much more to take in and so much more to send out.
Nice.
That
Yeah.
was
Good.
really, really refreshing. Very
Mm.
refreshing.
Expansive.
Right, right.
For sure. All right. Well, that's everyone's go-to this week. Everyone
Right.
is to come back and do this as much as they need to, right? To remember and ask themselves where they might be, if they feel resistance or breathlessness, like to step back and be like, what is it that I'm resisting? What is it there? What is there for me to let go of? In the creation of what I intend, to make sure we're clear on being clear on what we would like to and create.
Right, right. And put in the comments things that
Yeah.
come to you, what you're experiencing.
Yeah. Please share with us, because, we want to
Absolutely.
hear what's going on with you guys too. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And
and
as
make sure-
always,
yes.
like, follow, subscribe, all
Yes.
those wonderful things, and share, pass it
Yes.
along. If you know somebody who you think, oh, this is so what they need, share
Yes.
this with them. Share
Especially
this
right
with-
now, because there's so much of the change thing going on. This is a great thing to please share with as many as you feel the need. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week on Ascended World. This is Angela Coulter, and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
we'll see you next time.